it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, a little bit different video today. This is going to be my review or explanation or opinion on the VersaFine Clair Pigment inks. Now these inks are a fast drying oil-based pigment ink. These pigment inks capture fine detail stamping really well, and even better, solid stamping. Solid stamping is their forte, fine detail and solid stamping. Now this video is just my opinion, so I have put together my kind of favorites that I would perhaps purchase first. Now this is my first rainbow. If you wanted one of each, I would get the Tulip red, Summertime, the Cheerful, which is yellow, Verdant, which is green, Paradise blue, and Purple Delight, which is purple. So this would be the rainbow colors. If you said I just need to get one of each, that's all I can afford right at this moment, then this would be the 6 that I would purchase first. Of course, this is just my personal opinion. This whole video is my personal opinion. This has been a much requested video that I've been meaning to do for quite some time. I've done one of these on the Distress Oxide inks and I think lots of people found it helpful. Now if I were to add a darker yellow, I would add Golden Meadow. A darker purple, I would add the Monarch color. If I were to add a darker blue, it would be Blue Bell. If I were to add a darker green, it would be Green Oasis. Then honestly, for the reds and the oranges, there's no kind of darker or lighter of those. There are only 24 ink pads in the entire range. So if you had enough to buy 12, then this would probably be the 12 colors that I would choose. Now, this is a little screenshot here in case you're wanting to pause the video and write those down. As I said, the red and the orange, I also wouldn't get darkers or lighters. I just find that I'm able to do. And for those colors and all of the rest, you're able to do second generation stamping, and that is going to give you a light and a dark too. Now Paradise, Bluebell, and Medieval Blue. If I had to add a third blue, it would be the Medieval Blue to this one. These give a really nice range. For the greens, we already have the Verdant and Green Oasis. I would add the Rainforest as the next darkest green if greens are your thing. And as I said, this is all just my opinion, and this is kind of what I wished I had done if I could have my time again buying these. Now for the purples, I'm actually going to add a charming pink in here instead of a darker purple. Monarch and Purple Delight are what we had before, and then the charming pink also gives me a good range from kind of pinks to purples. And then from here, it really is just the reds and the oranges, which I talked about earlier before, the yellows, and there's just the 2 of each. So these ones, I have honestly found that these cater for all of my needs. I do not have the full set, and I certainly don't need the full set. I am well done purchasing these. I have these 3 here. The VersaFine Clair Morning Mist is the grey, the Pinecone is the brown, and this one here is the VersaFine Onyx Black. Now this is the stamping ink of my choice. Now this is the old version, how it used to come with the hinged lid, and I know that some stores still have the picture of this. However, when you purchase it, usually you will receive this new version, unless it's probably older stock. So even though the picture looks different, I'm sure you'll get this one. I know that scrapbook.com has the old picture, but they send out the new VersaFine. Now it's not technically a VersaFine Clair ink, but it is VersaFine Pigment ink. If I were to have one color that I just couldn't resist, it would be the Warm Breeze color. It kind of is just one of those luxury ones that I love the color so much that it was worth getting for me. So these are all of those colors kind of swatched out. Now this is obviously just to give you a rough idea of where I was heading with things. So for the reds, you can see that there's that darker yellow, which is almost kind of like the light green. I mean, it has a bit of a greeny tinge to it that you can definitely work into leaves if need be. Now, so there's the reds all done and dusted. And the greens, this is going to be the lightest one, the mid one, and the dark one. I find the colors on the lids are relatively similar to how they dry. Not absolutely perfect. I don't think any ink pads are absolutely perfect all the time, but pretty good in general. Now, another fabulous thing about pigment ink pads is that you are able to heat emboss with these. Because they are pigment ink, they sit on top of the paper as opposed to dye ink. So dye ink dyes the paper, it sinks into the paper, whereas pigment ink will sit on top and therefore it stays wet a little bit longer, and you are able to do things like heat embossing with it. So instead of having to have all the different embossing powder colors, so instead of having to have purple embossing powder and pink embossing powder and all of those, you can just stamp in your VersaFine clears and then add some clear embossing powder over top, and it just means you don't have to double up on products. Now, I am going to show you a couple of techniques and things in just a minute, but I just want to point out a couple of different things first. First of all, there are re-inkers for all of these ink pads. Now, I think it is a great idea to invest in these. I must admit, investing in new ink pads can be expensive, and hence why these videos are good in my opinion, and I guess it's why they are requested, is because then you can kind of get a feel for which colors and what might work for you. Now, when it comes to re-inking, I just put a medium amount around kind of the outside and down the middle of the ink pad, and then sometimes I gently put a little gift card or something like that over top. I don't kind of press down, I really just spread it out so it's nice and even over the raised ink pad. So I just kind of gently guide it in there, and then your ink pad is all inked up and juicy and ready to go. You certainly wouldn't have to buy the re-inkers at the same time, but I do think it is a good idea to purchase them, although the ink pads come pretty nice and juicy, so you shouldn't have to worry about re-inking them for a little while at least. Now, I just want to show you some of the stamping. I have this solid, these stamps are mostly solid, which just means I can give you some good examples, and I'm going to use the Monarch ink. I don't know when I last re-inked these, I just sort of re-ink them when I need to. Now, if I am stamping with any other ink other than the VersaFine clears, I am always going to use a stamping platform. I'm not likely to get a perfect print first time, but what I love about these is that these give a perfect stamp, even for these solid stamps, and I also do another one that's a little more intricate, but no skipping, no missing. I didn't have to hold it on there for a few minutes. It just transfers the ink beautifully and crisp and clean lines. I absolutely love it. So here is another one. This one's slightly more fine detail, and again, absolutely perfect stamping. So of course you can do lots of different things with pigment ink. Some of them are similar to other inks, of course, dye inks and hybrid inks and all those types of things. Now I'm just showing you that the VersaFine Onyx Black ink is my go-to for sentiments. That is perfect for fine detail stamping, as are the rest of these pigment inks. Now, if you already own some of these inks, I would be interested to know which are your favorite colors. Which would you advise that people get first? If you just wanted to get, say, 4 or 6 or 10 maybe to start off with, and try them out and see what you like. What were the colors that you first invested in or end up loving the most after trying them out a little bit? Now, as I was mentioning before, there are lots of techniques that you are able to do with these pigment inks, just like all the other inks. Yes, they are fantastic for stamping, and yes, they are absolutely brilliant for fine detail, but we can do all of the other things too. So first up, I wanted to show you that you can do ink blending just like other inks. Now, I'm coming in here with a finger dobber. I often use finger dobbers these days, mainly because they're so handy and I don't have to change out the domed foam blenders. I don't have to get my fingers inky or anything, so I love being able to use finger dobbers, and they blend beautifully just like any other inks. Now, of course, you can not only blend them onto paper, but you can blend colors together as well. Now, I'm just going to bring in a couple of colors, Paradise and Warm Breeze. This Warm Breeze color is one of my absolute favorites. I fell in love when I saw this color. It's not one of the first ones I got. I had to wait a little while until funds allowed me to be able to purchase another one. But as you can see, this is not even good blending paper. This is not the one that I would, if I really want to get an amazing blend with dye ink or pigment ink or anything, I always use the Tim Holtz watercolor paper on the smooth side. Now, of course, you can blend using the finger dobbers as well. Now these inks are generally opaque and quite saturated inks. They are going to be able to go lighter and blend them nicely as well. So these here are pretty saturated kind of versions of the blending. You can blend perfectly well with your finger daubers as well. Go back and forward in between the colors a little bit so that you can get a nice smooth blend. But down the bottom I just want to show you that you can also go nice and light as well, and it doesn't have to be that dark saturated opaque color. And then a few other techniques that I love doing with pigment inks in particular. Of course you can do these with others, but you can also do them with pigment inks. Now I'm going to bring in a piece of paper, a brayer, and my ink pad. Now this creates a really nice ombre version. It does have a lot of texture to it. Now I'm kind of lifting the brayer up and moving it down, and then lifting it up, moving it down across the ink pad. And this way I'm going to get even coverage across my whole brayer. And I just start at the bottom and then slowly move up. Ink up my brayer again, start at the bottom and slowly move up. And this way I'm going to get this gorgeous ombre result. I have videos on my channel of all of these techniques, using a brayer with pigment inks, with dye inks, all of those things. And with all of these techniques I'm just quickly showing you today, I'm giving you the very quick condensed version and not turning them into cards, because this is really just my review and opinion on the VersaFine Clair inks. Now this one is also a fun technique. You can use vellum. Now I use the Lawn Fawn vellum. This is my go-to because I can also heat emboss on it. I'm just getting a clear background there because I'm going to switch from the pink to the blue just to show you a range of colors and sort of what they look like. But again, I'm going to do the same technique, start at the bottom and work my way up. And this is also really fun when you are creating a waves, an ocean, a sea, sand, grass, anything like that. You can use this technique and kind of build up so that there is less and less ink up towards the top. The side that we inked on is going to stay a little bit darker. If you want it a little bit more muted, then you can turn it around and use the other side, and that is going to be just as gorgeous. So lots of fun techniques. I have a whole video on doing this as well, and you can see when you put it up against your background, absolutely stunning. So I hope that this video has shown you either a few different ways to use them, or perhaps some of the inks that you might like to try and invest in first. If you've been thinking about trying these out, or you were struggling to find a good clean stamping ink, these are definitely worth it in my opinion. So thank you so much for joining me. I will have links to the places where I purchase my VersaFine Clairs and the reinkers down in the description box below, but of course by all means find the best price, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye.